And it could be some allergies.
Yeah. Well, this may be a short meeting then, because we're, if I don't have anybody else show up, we're kind of preaching to the choir. But I did, yeah, I did have a couple of things I wanted to go over. Let's see here, get my little list.
Hey, if you'll send me a link to the meeting, and I'd like to put that in for the supervisors in the document section, or you can put it in there.
The documents, what, on the tracker or?
Yeah, in the document tracker, you can enter documents just for supervisors.
Okay.
And if you'll just make the heading May 6, 2022 monthly supervisor meeting, and just put a link to this in there, on a Word document. If that don't make sense, call me. I'll walk you through.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me because I do it. But
sure, I understand. I'll do that. I usually put it on YouTube. Get a YouTube link, so I can put that on there.
Yeah, put the YouTube link just in a document, just so I have it documented that we have it accessible for supervisors.
Yeah. Okay.
Judith, you asked me a question recently on email that I answered effectively.
Yeah. Did you two have a chance to get back to Jessica? Because I know she was trying to get this externship, and that's the first time I've had somebody do that in process with me, and I wasn't sure if there was anything I was supposed to do.
Well, the process, just so you know, and I'm hopefully when I come to an email, I do my 100% best to respond to everybody in that moment. But the process is we have to have an MOU with that organization, which is a standard MOU. The point of contact and the student have to sign it. We put that into our file, and then all the clinical supervision is done by you or their IS. There's no clinical supervision that's done outside of our supervision cadre. Okay. And the MOA essentially says, hey, we're bringing her here. It's going to be safe. We're providing her everything she needs. Document process, everything. And that's pretty much the extent of what we have with that externship placement. Used to, they'd have to provide supervision, all that, but as long as you're okay, and the thing that you need to be okay about is, and I look at this as well, Nikki and I look at it, are they actually doing counseling?
Yeah.
And not peer support services or case management or making coffee or doing painting, Yeah,
that was when I was doing it solo. That was my thing, was, because a lot of places they'd have interns, social work interns who are able to count coffee, making coffee and taking out the trash. And I would have to, kind of step in there and say, okay, our students here just for hours, with their clients. And so I'd have to kind of, be the mama bear and look out for my kids.
Yeah. Okay. And well, that's helpful because, I don't want to make that assumption. And Jessica had said that the externship had said, if I was doing the supervision, they would like to speak to me. And so I'll talk to her about that. I haven't heard from anybody yet. And I did say, here's my numbers, have them give me a call, kind of thing. Is that sort of a standard MOU in the documents?
If not, I'll put it there, but I think it is, but I'll make sure.
I'll go look. And if I need it, I'll get to you. Otherwise, you'll know I've made sure that Jessica saw it. And then I'll help her move through that process so she can get that in place. If provided it will be a real therapy experience.
Okay, where's it at?
someplace in Campbellsville, actually. So there can't be that many,
It was
right?
an agency. Let me see. Let me look it up here.
Bluegrass
Heart and
something?
Soul,
Is it
Heart and Soul
Bluegrass?
is Seneca's.
Yeah, it wasn't Seneca's. It was another one.
I thought, did it have Bluegrass in the name,
Yeah.
Nikki?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, Bluegrass Counseling Center?
Yeah, I believe that was,
And do you know them, Tony? Have you had experience with them before?
Yeah, they're actually graduates, I believe, of Campbellsville.
Okay.
of course, I have 1,000 emails from her. Let me go to my sent folder. Let's see here.
Hey, Tony, while Nikki's looking that up, can you tell me again, and I know you've sent it to me before, if you have 2 associates, and I know what the law says, that counts for individual for them both, and that counts as 1 hour for me with my supervising tally.
Mhm.
And when you are charging for that, do you just have a regular charge for the hour? And then if there are 2 people, they split that so that they
Right.
are paying less?
That's the
Okay.
way I do it. Everybody doesn't do it that way.
Sure.
Yeah, so.
But yeah, and that's okay with me. I'd like to make it affordable to folks. Now, if I should get a 3rd person, then I can offer group to them if they want to do that. They don't necessarily have to do that with me. And to make sure that I keep doing individual, that means that I start a second dyad, if you will, until we get a 4th person. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was in the right vein here.
Yeah. And what
Okay. I'm sorry.
go ahead, Nikki.
Oh, go ahead and finish. I found the email.
Go ahead. Let's finish
Okay.
that.
Bluegrass Professional Counseling.
Professional.
So that's the agency. She sent the request last week. So yeah, so we just need to follow up with that.
Okay, that's in our discussion today will help me do that. So I can get that done.
Yeah. And you actually asked the question that was one of on my little list here about notes audits, and just verifying that again, that we no longer need to have the actual report. I just need an email to verify that you've done the review. So, and that's monthly. We're with the term ending, I get it. You'll be emailing me for May or yeah, I'm getting April reviews now from people. I usually wait till the 3rd week of the month or the last week to do for that month. And yeah, just an email stating that, yes, I've completed the April notes audit, nothing, no concerns about the student, or if you have concerns, just kind of put it on our radar and we'll support you and, offer any additional help the student needs too. So.
Okay.
And
maybe the 2 of you can speak to how, to what degree is the expectation that students will use everything that Theranest has? Because, I know we always walked a fine line at the agency between the online record keeping system is so powerful. You can spend hours writing a novel every time and writing these huge notes, which I never wanted. And our lawyers were always about, don't go there. You do what you need to do, but yes, you don't have to do, 30 chapters every time. However, it looks to me like in general, and I'm not calling out any particular student here, but in general, as I've looked at the students I've dealt with so far, it looks to me like even with initial assessment and initial treatment plan, it's pretty bare bones. And from the agency's perspective, I probably would have leaned on them a little harder about utilizing the form to their best advantage, because it really does lead you through the process. If you fill in the blanks, it leads you through the process of thinking through the case. And so I've been talking to students about that, but I feel like, am I being too harsh? Am I being too leaning into them a little too hard about documentation? So just any feedback you have for me about that would be most welcome.
So I'll tell you what I teach them in intro to practicum. And this is the expectation, is the first session, they complete the cross-cutting level 1 measure with the client. They go over consent to treat and limits of confidentiality. And if it's telehealth, they go over the telehealth consent to treat and the safety plan. That's, it's a state law for MFTs that, okay, we have to have, the emergency contacts and local police department phone numbers. If we get disconnected,
What are we going to do?
you're going to try to reconnect. I'm going to try to reconnect to the meeting. You're going to call me. That's why they all have to have a Google phone number, so the client can contact them during session only if they get disconnected. And if after 4 minutes they're not reconnected with the client, they're calling the local police department for a welfare check, and then they're calling an emergency contact. So that's the safety plan that, they have to go over with the client that first session. Make sure, where you're located, what's
Every time.
every time, if they're in the car at lunch, where you at? I'm at Kroger's on Fairdale. Where you parked? I'm, what color vehicle are you in? So going over those, the intake process, cross-cutting level 1 measure, and the CSSRS, the 2 questions to screen for suicidal risk.
Yeah.
Beyond, and if they're doing the, when they do the cross-cutting level 1 measure, I encourage you to do it conversationally. And they're going to get a lot of data, a lot of information from that client. And that's what they're going to put, they're going to put the CSSRS and the cross-cutting level 1 measure that they've completed. That's got to be added to the client's documents. And if they end up doing a safety plan, that goes in the client's documents. But at the end of the session, what they have to document is initial impression and diagnosis. They don't have to have a diagnosis the first session.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even have to provide a medical diagnosis. They can do a Z code, conflict, relational conflict, parent-child conflict, and that's fine. The second session, they've started the cross-cutting level 1 measure.
Mm-hmm.
The second session, they're administering whatever level 2 cross-cutting measures that are indicated. They're continuing to zero in on, the symptoms, the diagnosis, and further joining with them. By the third session, they're, ideally, and some clients are dysregulated, so content full that they can't get into process. By the third session, the goal is, okay, let's work on our treatment plan. What are your goals? Okay, these are your goals. Here's the interventions, therapeutic interventions that I'm going to suggest for this. And they need to write out the treatment plan with the goals, the interventions, and the objectives.
Okay. And that's.
But you're right. It's if they'll use the tools it walks them through the process. And in intro to practicum, the students are seeing it. Well, this makes sense, and I encourage them to, when you're doing the progress, and there's got to be a progress note for every session, I encourage them to choose the SOAP note. There's two options they can choose from. I teach the SOAP note process in intro to practicum. And so I tell them, I don't want you to write a novel.
That's right.
But use bullet points, be very concise. And reality, it should only take you, once you get into the progress note part of it, it should only take you 5 minutes to complete the progress note. But you got to start feeling comfortable. And if it takes you a half hour, know that you're practicing, you're getting it, used to it. And that's where supervisors can be so helpful. If we don't inspect what we expect, we're not going to get it. They're going to, it doesn't seem important to us. So why would they be paying attention to it?
Yeah. Okay, good. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, there are a whole lot of bells and whistles that are in the platform, but it is good for them to make a note. I think a lot of them aren't putting the affect, within normal limits, those
Mental status exam.
mental status. Yeah. But I'm seeing pretty good stuff there. I think we're missing some. When I do my notes audits, it's, I just go down the list and, okay. And if I've had a few times where a student didn't do the cross-cutting right away. And there've been a couple, okay, well, we got to go back. We've got to get that. And making sure to get, and letting them know that, hey, this isn't a novel, or this isn't, written, set in stone. You can adjust as you need to. And we're not filing insurance. So you can put rule out here and there, that sort of thing. So that's what I tell them is don't be scared of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a time to learn and practice. I'll give you a perfect example. Raina graduates today. And, in group supervision a couple times this term, when we had some space just to bring questions about supervision, she said, I am going to work in an agency when I graduate that's all social workers. They do not use electronic health records. They still have paper files.
Oh, nice.
And she said, they don't do things, Tony, the way that you've taught us.
Right.
Do I have to do the way that they taught us? Is that an ethical mandate for me to do it that way? I said, no. I said, what we teach you in our program are best practices. If you don't want to follow best practices, don't follow best practices. You're on your own. That'll be between whoever you and your clinical supervisor is going to be. But just, and I think this is something that, we need to have ongoing conversations with our supervisees about is, if you go into an agency like 7 counties, they're going to have a process you got to follow. And that process may be different than what you're used to. They may use different assessment tools. If you're not trained, if you're not a psychometrist, you can't do a lot of those psychometric testings. It's outside your scope of competency. You're going to get banged in the head one day and maybe lose your license if hey, everybody else is doing this and Betty taught me how to do this. Well, you're not formally trained. You're out working outside the scope of competency. So, all of our folks aren't going into cultures and systems that are marriage and family therapy friendly.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So, again, we can teach you, and it is a standard of practice that you're screening. There's lots of the DSM screeners are there for everybody. That's why we teach them. Are there others? Absolutely, but you know, that's my concern, is what happens post graduation for some of these folks, because they go in and, okay, well, we didn't do this. Well, this is the way they're, you know, they still have a license, a permit that is at jeopardy. And if I'm supervising somebody who goes into an agency, you better know that I'm going to know what their requirements are.
Mhm.
Because it's not the agency's responsibility if they're violating their, you know, AMFT or licensure board codes. It's my response. My license is on the line.
Because that's who they're practicing under. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to help students not be afraid of the addendum, that it's
Yes.
okay to do
Right.
the very best and sign it. And then if you need to add something or correct something, that's okay. You're human. But do it that way, because then your note is signed, your plan is signed.
Yep.
Very good. Yep. That's what I do.
Okay, good.
Okay, so does that help?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, great. The other thing I had was something that Tony and I were just talking about was the use of the tracker app for pre-practicum students. That has to do with group. So you won't have to worry about that, but you know, it might pop up in their we're going to look to make sure that you don't have hours that they've done that don't count. We're going to make sure that, you know, when you go on the tracker app and see how many hours they have, you know, live or whatever, they, you know, some of them are putting in live data and that sort of thing in their pre-practicum. So we're going to have to clean that out. But that's something we're going to take care of up front, just so you know. You know, you might get a new student and they, you know, brand new, and they may have hours in there and you're going, wait a minute, what is that? We'll get it. Let us know if something like that pops up.
Yeah. So in group supervision, Judith, as when they enter the program, they have to do 3 terms during pre-practicum of group supervision. Okay. That's a change we made at the first of the year, because we want them to become oriented to, you know, the practice of therapy. We want them to become more connected with students who are in practicum already. And by them having to participate in group supervision for 3 terms of pre-practicum, then what they're reporting is, this is really helpful. I feel less nervous.
Yes.
I feel a little bit more equipped to start seeing clients because I'm watching what the other interns are doing.
Yeah, that's a genius thing that Tony implemented. And I just was thrilled with that, because I know it would have helped, you know, my students before he came. We were doing it face to face then.
Yeah.
But so now they're free to come and join that. It really does kind of help some of their butterflies.
Yeah. And they're, you know, during intro to practicum, we do our best to assign them to a new client as an observer. So I start pre-practicum next week. Over the next 8 weeks, Hope is going to assign me to observe, be an observer for a new client. I don't get to say anything. I just come in and say, hi, Judith, good to see you. And then I'm going to turn my camera off and turn my mic off and just observe. And then the next term, when I start practicum, guess what? I become the co-therapist with the intern who's the lead therapist with this person I've been observing.
Okay.
So,
and Ethan has talked about needing 20 hours and before he can be on his own. Is that correct?
correct. So
yeah. What status is he then?
P1, when you practicum 1 is the first 20 hours.
Okay.
You have to do those hours in the well. You cannot take an externship until you complete 20 hours. So that's kind of, we want you to learn a process that, is best practices. Okay. That's our process. If you're working at start out an externship, we're not necessarily going to know that you're learning that. We don't get to inspect what we expect. After 20 hours, they automatically can apply for an externship. But we also, I think you've completed an evaluation to work independently for a student.
Yes.
Okay. At 20 hours, that triggers that evaluation. 2 supervisors, and it's typically the individual and the group supervisor, complete that evaluation, and then the staff, we vote on it. We look at the recommendations of the supervisors. We vote yes to approve them to go to P1.1. That means, okay, I'm still P1 student, but now I get to work independently if I need to. We do our best to always pair clients with 2 students, 2 interns, because that really supports continuity of care. If one gets sick, one needs to take a break, one whatever, can't show up that week, there's still another student there to provide care. And typically one of the students is much closer to graduation than the second. So when that student's graduating, there's still another student coming along that can provide care. So
to support, they're getting relational hours, because they do co-therapy with couples and families too.
Mhm.
So that way 2 students are getting that experience.
Yeah. The P1, there's P1 and P2, used to be P3 till they reduced the requirement to 300 hours. P1 is the first 120 hours. They stay with the same supervisor through P1. At P2, we assign a second supervisor. And so that's 120-ish up to 300 hours. They'll stay with their second supervisor. If they come back as a special status student, then they'll stay with their P2 supervisor. Now, let's say Raina's graduating today. She's coming back as a special status student. Raina may contract with a supervisor outside of our CU cadre. We got 17 supervisors. She can contract with anybody she wants, and she will have to contract with somebody for an associate to do her associate supervision. That associate supervisor, they can come on as a CU supervisor, so that supervision counts for both their special status student supervision and their associate supervision.
Mhm.
Once a person like Raina graduates today, whoever she comes back next week and starts doing her special status student supervision with, she has to pay them directly. We're no longer collecting the money from them, then having the school turn around and pay them. And so, but she does, until she gets her associates, she has to work with, so like for G6, she'll be working with somebody who's one of our supervisors for that individual supervision, and she still has to attend group supervision until she graduates from, completes her practicum as a special status student. Now, something that we need to understand so we can explain to the student, when you become an associate, our group supervision time in the program is not going to be able to count for your associate supervision, because the licensure board only allows up to 6 associates in group supervision, and we'll have 8 plus our pre-practicum students. So
Well,
when
now
they hit-
students though don't count towards that, do they?
it's number of people.
Oh, because it used to be that students didn't count towards that total.
It doesn't as for our practicum students who are not associates.
Uh-huh.
So, for students who have not graduated yet, we have to limit the group to 8 because that's what coamptive says, 8
Uh-huh.
interns, but we can have those up to 4 more pre-practicum students join that group supervision.
Well, that's kind of come up too, is makeups for group supervision, is, students have been asking to join another group, and I'm trying to keep it to 12, but I think I think you've had some of your students in your associate supervision. I've allowed some to do makeup with mine. I'm not hitting that number, but just want to make sure I'm clear on that. So that it's 12 bodies. That's the limit. 8 students, total of 12. So,
Well, that total of 12, we kind of made that up. We said, okay, we can have no more than 8 interns.
I think that's co-empty though.
If it is, I don't know. Well, the 8 is coamptive.
Yes.
So bringing in the 4 additional pre-practicum students.
Yeah.
You and I had that conversation. We said 12 is a lot of people to have.
Yeah,
in group
that's-
supervision.
Yeah.
That's coamptive doesn't address. All they say is group supervision is a maximum of 8 interns.
Okay. All right. So what I've been telling, because Ken's group always fills up. Dr. Griffiths often fills up. So when students ask to make it up, I don't let them go in those groups.
No,
Like, those are your options. So just want to make sure I'm doing that right. Okay. All right. And it's fine for associates, for them to join associates, as long as we don't exceed that number. Cool.
but they still have to enter in their tracker app,
Mhm.
group supervision. And that's, I've been doing special status student groups, supervision. And they forget to, oh, I got to put that on my tracker. I mean, my
Yeah.
supervisor log, but I
Right.
also have to enter it in the tracker app.
Yes, yes. And that brings me to a question about special students who get their associate's permit midterm, during the term. So how's that work?
Well, they're already a special status student, so
Right.
they just continue. They'll have to, let's say they contracted, I'm their supervisor as a special status student, but you're going to be their associate supervisor. As soon as they get their associates, they got to start meeting with you too. So they're going to have,
Both.
Okay. They're going to have double duty for individual supervision until that term
Gotcha.
goes.
Okay, because I have a couple of students, and that was the question too, was we just talked a few minutes ago about, we have some supervisor candidates who haven't reached their 3 years of licensure. And so in that case, for the term, they can continue with that supervisor, even though they're an associate, but they need to have an associate supervisor. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. All right. That helps, because I've got, like I said, I've been in conversation with a couple of students about that.
Yeah. So like Rebecca Sidebottom's coming on as a supervisor candidate. Everybody that I'm mentoring now can supervise students or associates, because all of them now have been licensed for at least 3 years.
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. So I think it was Randy and Melissa Smith. And so that helps, because I had a student asking, you know, if I would take her on as an associate, and I just want to make sure I'm not, so they're going to have to double dip.
Yeah.
Supervision. So that's fine. It's one term, right? Or
Right. And when I do my graduation audit with them, I explain every bit of this. I mean, sometimes I go an hour with them to line all of this out, and I take notes, and you know, so you know, Mr. Banks, you know, I'm so pleased he's graduating today, you know, and hopefully, you know, he's just an example of somebody I have to take longer with to help make sure that they really understand.
Yeah.
But
right. Okay, good. Hopefully that's more than Judith even wanted to know, I bet. But
actually, this is very helpful for me.
Yeah. And the rest who watch the video will benefit from this. The only other thing I had on my list was payment. And I guess maybe they have a staffing issue in payroll. But I actually saw a 4-week delay in some pay requisitions I submitted. And on top of that, a lot of times there'll be some shuffling and some last minute changes, or even changes the first week of the new term. So I'm going to hold off submitting those pay requisitions until the second week of the term. So that's going to push that back a little bit. So I just want to give all our supervisors a heads up on that, because, you know, we've had a couple of situations where somebody got changed and they either got paid extra or got paid, you know, or down one student, that kind of thing. So it's just going to be delayed. And, you know, I'm just offering my apologies. Hopefully they'll beef up the payroll staff and maybe move things a little faster. But for now, you might not get your pay until the 5th week of the term. So just a heads up on that. Yeah.
Darn, there goes your Maui trip, right?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, so basically that's all I had. What questions do you have?
You know, I think you answered everything, and thank you for that. It was helpful that you asked us ahead of time. That was very helpful to be able to think it through and shoot you a couple of notes. And yeah, and this whole conversation today has been very helpful for me. So thanks.
Excellent. Tony?
So Nikki, if you would email everybody that, hey, because of payroll, you know,
I will. Yeah.
just don't plan on your
Right.
your Tunica, Mississippi trip being funded by your payment for supervision.
Yeah, especially one of our faculty members who's on top of it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
where's my pay? Yeah. But okay.
The second thing, something I was going to say. Oh, Judith, as you move into, you know, maybe taking on more associates, you may want to consider, because we can supervise up to 12 associates now.
Right.
You may want to consider offering a group supervision option as well. Because if an associate only gets 1 hour a week of supervision, it's going to take them 4 years to complete the 200 hours.
Yes.
And most people, they want to finish in 2 years. Okay. So what I do and others do is, okay, we offer individual supervision, you split the hour, but if you want to join a group supervision, so you get 2 hours a week, you can join this. I can have up to 6 people in it, and that only costs you $20 every time it'll be $20 a week. And I tell them, if you join this group, you're going to pay me $20 a week, whether you show up or not.
Oh, Okay, that's
Because I'm giving them
sign
a
up.
spot. I'm giving them a spot,
Sure.
you know, and, you know, so that's, you're welcome to go try to join somebody else's group. But if, even with group supervision, they still have to have a supervision contract that they submit to the board so that that supervisor's hours with them will count.
Yeah,
So,
I do a, just like I do with our supervision with students, I do a sign up genius. So they sign up and that way I don't have 3 students showing up for individual. They know what hours I offer and they have to sign up for it.
Yeah.
So that makes life a whole lot easier for me in tracking it.
I do a little bit different. My dyads are set, you know, you're on
Mhm.
Thursday at 1 o'clock with each other. If you can't make it, let me know and I'll offer it to somebody else who may want to get an extra hour of individual supervision that week.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. This, that's all I had. And I guess we've covered everything for the week. We'll do this again in June.
Okay.
Assuming that whoever's able to make it isn't on vacation.
Let me offer one more, I think, really important concern for us as supervisors. We're supposed to keep a supervision log as well as the associate. Now we have to sign off on the supervision log when they fill the page up. We're not meeting in person, so I have them fax, or not fax, but scan and email their full supervision log. I sign it, I send it back to them, and I have a file for each associate. I don't keep a paper supervision log. I have an Excel spreadsheet with, all, a different tab for each one of my supervisees. And every time I meet with them, I'll have the date, was it individual supervision, group supervision, case consultation, or raw data. And then at the end, I put a note about what something that we talked about in supervision that way. That way I have, accountability. If the board says, we want to see your log. Okay, here it is. Which my associates do you want to see? Because
About that, because what I've been doing is I've got my own personal Theranos account and and I build them through that. So I'm just able to run a report and I can run them a report and send them how much they spent on supervision so they can use that for their taxes. And I don't have to, it's just easier for me to track it that way. I just bill it as a supervision through the Theranos and it's easy peasy.
Oh, that's a great idea. I may move over to that with my console. I can do that in console. So
yeah. And you can run it for just one. You can run it all the students. So so that way I put them in the calendar on Theranos and I've got it there. So actually I don't keep my sign up, stuff. I guess I could, but I figure Theranos is fine for that. So yeah, it was really nice to do year-end stuff.
I wonder what Rob would charge to give us an individual tracker app.
Oh, that's a good question.
He designed it. It's his baby. So.
Yeah. For me though, I've got it, everything, what I charge, all of that's right there. And it's helpful for them to file their taxes.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of like Judith, who doesn't need a therapist. She doesn't need an EHR.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That would be great for you guys. Yeah.
Really?
All right.
Some money doing this.
Huh?
He could make some money doing this.
Well, when I talked with them about setting it up for us, I told them, I said, once you get all the bugs worked out, you could sell this to lots of programs.
Yes.
Yes. He's working with Amazon now. He is high coder now. I mean, he's a really, this is Dale's son.
Oh, okay.
And he designed our tracker app and webpage, and he's just a fine young man. He really is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that is way cool. Oh, I love knowing that history behind Tracker.
Mhm, mhm. Is he still
And,
in San Francisco?
I'm sorry?
Is he still in San Francisco?
No, he's been in Texas, but
Uh,
they're moving back to Illinois where her family's from.
Okay, I was gonna say, Judith and I were having a conversation before we started about how awesome California is. And, but it's also so expensive, and especially in San Francisco. So, yeah. All right.
Judith,
For him.
I mentioned to, what's the program director's name out in California, Nikki?
Oh, Claire?
No, or the other one.
I mean, oh, shoot. Now I'm being like Ken. Oh.
Anyway, I mentioned to her at our last meeting.
Shelley.
Shelley, I mentioned to Shelley Stee, yeah. Last week, I said, one of our supervisors here graduated from Phillips. And she said, you're kidding, and I told her I would put the two of you in contact. She'd love to talk to you. And
I would love that.
and something else, I'll just put a bug in your ear. You may not be at all interested, but they're having a real hard time finding adjunct professors.
Really?
Really, because what she told us, she said, out here in California, they're making so much money in private practice that it doesn't make sense for them to teach anymore. So
Wow.
I'm going to shoot you and Shelley an email introducing y'all. And, she said there may be a possible way that, somebody from Kentucky can teach courses for them out there.
Wow. Oh, I would be very interested in that, at least hearing about it.
Yeah.
And talking with somebody. And I was asking Nikki, oh, by the way, whenever the PhD program gets started, I've talked about it enough at home that David actually said to me the other day, so when are you starting that program?
All right. You, me, and Nikki may be the first three to go through it.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. It's got to be free before I do it. And
You're cute.
yeah, I can't. Scott, my husband needs to get his PhD. So we're,
Oh, so yeah, you guys can't be swinging both of those at the same time. Whoa.
Yeah. We'll see what the Lord does with it. Yeah. Okay, great, guys. This has been good. And I know that the other supervisors will benefit from this conversation. So I will be sending them a link and get that also loaded up on the tracker, and just give them an email about some things that coming up the pike and things that are slowly coming up the pike pay-wise.
Yeah. So I checked documents. I don't have the MOA loaded in there yet, but I will load it in the supervisors. When students log in, they can only see what I've given them to see, but supervisors can see all of it.
Okay.
So
Okay, great.
I'll do that right now so I don't forget.
Okay. Thank you,
Very
Tony. I
good.
appreciate
Good.
that.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. Take care. Thanks.
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
See ya.